Bandwidth for this podcast is brought to you by CacheFly at CACHEFLY.com.
Welcome back to MacBreak Studio. We're here again in the beautiful studios in Pixel Core in Petaluma, California. I have with me Mark Spencer, motion guru to the stars, and he's going to walk us through some of the effects features, particularly color grading in Final Cut Pro 10.
Yeah.
And a roll your own, and a kind of a roll your own kind of color grading kind of effect, right?
Yeah, I think this is kind of a fun little thing, and we're working in Final Cut Pro 10, but what we're going to do is because of motion, and I'll show you what I mean. So we'll just dump right in. We have a little show here. We have a clip, and what I want to do is color correct this clip. Okay.
Yeah, it looks a little blue and washed out.
Blue, and maybe you want that, but normally in Final Cut 10 you would go to the color board, right? Click the little correction. I'll hit a little arrow here for the correction. Go to the color board where we have color, saturation, and exposure. And maybe I'd go to exposure and bring the blacks down a little bit darker, maybe something like that. Maybe I'd boost the overall saturation up a little bit. Maybe leave it alone. And then the color, I might take the shadows and make them kind of a blue, not too blue, but a little blue, because he's sick. He's in the hospital and kind of cold feeling. But then maybe I take the highlights and maybe warm them up a little bit, so I've got a little bit of color in his skin.
Right.
Okay. So you can do that pretty quickly, and it's a very effective way to do color correction, to use the color board and using these different widgets here.
Little targets.
Little targets. Thank you. You'll get me on the terminology.
It looks
there.
like a target.
Yeah. So if I go back now and turn that correction on and off, you can see you can very quickly do a quick correction there.
Before, after. Yeah,
before and after. There we go. I'm going to actually hit the reset here, the little hooked arrow.
Okay.
But I discovered something, is that you can, thanks to a new or rewritten filter in Motion and the fact that you can publish these filters to Final Cut, I found a way for you to be able to actually use color wheels in Final Cut Pro 10.
People have to have color wheels.
If you really got to have that color wheel, there's a way to do that. So what we're going to do here is I'm just going to go to the effects browser here and go to Custom. And we've created a version of this. It's very simple because it's simply publishing an existing filter.
Right.
And it's one of our, we give away weekly freebies on these things on Ripple Training.
Every Monday.
Every Monday, yeah, but now I got to keep doing it. So we've got this one called RT Color Balance, and I'm going to drag it onto this clip, and you'll see up here in the video inspector that it has 3 color swatches for shadows, midtones, and highlights, right? So I'll start with the shadows.
3 tonal ranges.
Exactly, so I'll start with the shadows. If I click it, what we get is the OS 10 color picker. I'll make it big. So we've got a color wheel.
Sure.
Okay. So you can kind of think of this as the slider over here is what you might be used to seeing below the color wheel, but I can adjust the overall luminance of my shadows right here without affecting the color.
Look at that.
Maybe bring that down. And then I can say with a color I want it to be a little bluer over. So I can make the shadows a little darker, a little bluer. Then I'll take the highlights here. I'll skip the midtones. And I could brighten up the highlights a little bit and maybe make them a little redder by pushing over into the reds. So if it's something you're used to, the kind of color wheel idea of doing color correction, you can access...
It's a color picker.
Basically, yeah, kind of like a color corrector 3-way.
Can you use the crayon picker?
Yeah, you could choose colors any way you wanted to.
Whenever I do broadcast video, I always use the crayon picker. That's my choice.
But a really neat way to control your shadows, midtones, and highlights by separately adjusting the luminance values by a slider on the right, and then hue and saturation.
That would be color balance, essentially.
Yes, exactly. So I'm adjusting the hue by the angle around this wheel, and then the saturation by how far out, or the radius of the wheel. I can get really saturated.
Just like Final Cut Pro 7's 3-way color corrector wheels, essentially the same thing.
It's doing the same thing you're doing on the color board, just another way to do it, another approach, and maybe you can get a little bit of a different look out of it. So
now
kind
wait,
of a fun thing.
I think you can actually pull up the color board interface in this little plug-in, this little effect of yours, if you wanted to, right?
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think can't you do that?
I don't know how you could do that.
I think if you control-click on that swatch, don't you bring up the color board? Oh, no.
I don't
know. Right up. How about that? There you go.
Oh,
There's a color board.
I thought you meant. I thought you meant the color.
I was like, look,
yeah,
it's
you can do like
it's
a quick
a square.
and dirty. Yeah, it's a quick and a little hard to control because you don't really see the wheel. But you're right. Right. Okay,
Sorry.
I didn't know. See where you're going with that.
For some people who really want to use the color board in your interface, they can.
So a fun little way, a quick effect. It's neat because it's an effect, and then you could copy paste effects from one thing to the other. You can't save presets is the one thing. If you do use the color board, and if I go back to that correction there, there's all these presets under the gear menu, and you can save your own preset once you get a correction that you like. So you can't do that with this RT color balance, but it is a neat way to kind of do a color corrector 3-way type of approach in Final Cut Pro 10.
Excellent. So where do people find these free effects like this RT color balance?
You get those Ripple Training if you subscribe to rippletraining.com, the newsletter.
There's actually just up there. We announce them through Twitter every week.
So if you follow, you'll get them. Yeah.
Exactly, and then we put them up, and this is a good one.
Good. And if you want to learn how to publish your own effects from Motion for Final Cut Pro 10, because that's a whole new world now that we have going on.
I believe you have a tutorial.
I do. I have a tutorial on that, rippletraining.com, and that's pretty much it.
Excellent. So hope you like the new RT color balance effect and some of the things you could do in very quickly in Final Cut Pro 10. We appreciate you coming out here and showing us this really cool stuff. Thank you for watching another episode of MacBreak Studio.